Thank you. First of all, as someone who has attended every single meeting of the Public Accounts Committee, I would like to thank in the first instance the staff who have worked above and beyond the call of duty. That's the first thing, and were excellent public servants. Secondly, I'd like to thank the Chair for chairing it very fairly throughout all of those sessions. Thirdly, we went into private session for a number of sessions. I believe there's absolutely no point in the future in going into private session on the Public Accounts Committee, because the leakers determine the narrative. And the leakers to the paper should never determine the narrative. The process on the committee should determine the narrative. Fourthly, NAMA determined the narrative from the day that they reacted to the Controller and Auditor General's report, which to me was extraordinary when I saw the way they reacted. We had a public servant, the Controller and Auditor General, carried out a report which raised serious concerns, simply raised them in relation to the process, the conflict of interest, value for money. And he raised concerns in relation to records, that the conflict of interest should be followed up on, and so on. I'm still in a state of shock as to why NAMA would have reacted in the manner they did to those fairly mild concerns. And having gone through the process, again, the narrative has been shaped a little bit in terms of, unfortunately, Fine Gael. And politics did not come in at any stage to the committee except in relation to the final session in relation to the Minister. Politics never occurred inside that door, and we tried to be as fair as we could to all parties. In fact, we invited in every single board member of NAMA to come in before us. And so what we've produced today is a report that says, hold on, there are serious concerns here in relation to how a decision was reached that reversed the whole process up till then. It was a selling off of the assets. The Controller and Auditor General, nor did we say whether that was right or wrong. What we said was there were no records, no reasoning to show us how they reached that decision. The conflict of interest, we say clearly, should have been followed up on. When they discovered the gentleman in question on the Northern Ireland Advisory Committee was advising so many of the debtors and so on, they should have followed up. And they should have followed up afterwards and so on. That's the process that we have gone through here. Why it was necessary? That's a question. Perhaps if NAMA had accepted it and learned from the Controller and Auditor General, we mightn't have needed as many months. In relation to an investigation, unfortunately we're now in a position again where that is absolutely necessary, even though I'm not advocating it in the sense of we have so many. I'm one of those that says it is necessary, and the government has already made the decision. Why? Because this process, and I'll finish on this, Chair, I could say much more but I won't. The Chair, this process was always on the basis of a reverse sale process, that PIMCO came forward and asked NAMA. It would seem from us looking at this that it wasn't like that. We all acknowledge that NAMA only became aware of it at a certain date. But we now know from PIMCO and from Cerberus, from very long correspondence, that this process had been going back to 2012, and it was instituted by a member that was on the Northern Ireland Advisory Committee, which was advising the NAMA board. It came from that with two other outside firms. So this reverse sale has to be seriously questioned amongst many other things. Finally, I think institutions should begin to learn from very good reports. Take the recommendations on board, learn from them, and this whole process wouldn't have been necessary. But for me, it was the staff that stood out, and politics at its best, until the very end, when, unfortunately, divisive politics came into it, just at the final step.
Okay. Last question.